Hi and welcome back to another video of jPlay. I am Marcus and today I want to start a new playthrough, and that's Dungeon Degenerates Hand of Doom. Another very specific little game, and as you might have noticed already, I really have a thing for games that are a little bit unusual in respect to theme or in respect to mechanics. In this case the mechanics are, I would say, relatively clear, relatively streamlined, but the theme is very special. But I think I will come to that when I show you some of the components. So yeah, let's get started.
Yeah, that's the setup for the second mission in theory, but I will come to that in a second. And in case you are wondering, no, everything is fine with your PC, with your monitor, you name it. Those are the colors of Dungeon Degenerates. Somewhat psychedelic, that's clear. And as for our two protagonists here, they look pretty special too. So here we have the Hinterlander pretty much, and on the right hand side we have the Corpse Burner. I chose both of those characters at random pretty much. Not sure how many characters are in play, but it's at least 8 different characters you can choose from. And here we have the Corpse Burner in more detail. There are backstories and everything for all of those characters, but I will not spoil you the fun in order to experience those guys on your own if you ever get hold of this game. And yeah, he has a class. He's human, Puritan and a rogue. He would normally start with some items. He starts with his burly skill here. The items are gone, but again, I come to that in a second when I go into the actual scenario. But let's also have a closer look at the Hinterlander here. He's also human, he's a hunter, he's wild. He would normally start with a hunting bow and a trail ration. His skill is fieldcraft, so he can pretty much rest using a different skill than normal. But before I go into more detail, let's have a look at our very first mission. This game comes with a whole pile of missions here from the missions book. I really haven't counted those missions, but they're really quite a lot. You can play all those missions standalone or as some kind of a sandbox, but I think the best way to play Dungeon Degenerates is to play it as a campaign. And as there is a lot of branching between those missions, I think even playing it in campaign mode gives you a high level of replayability. But okay, let's check it out. The first mission would be On the Run. As you rot in your filthy prison cell beneath the fortress of Brüttelburg, a shady jailer comes to you smelling of cheap gin and rancid oil, offering an illicit deal. He has found something valuable that he needs to keep hidden from his cruel and fanatical commander, the High Magistrate. Unable to leave his post, the jailer offers you your freedom if you will retrieve and deliver a package to his crook cousin in Pigskin Port. Will you accept this generous offer or refuse him and plot an escape on your own terms? As I've actually already played On the Run and took the left branch of this mission, let's basically refuse the jailer's offers here, and if you do, skip this mission and continue to loot and pillage on page 3. And this is what we will do now. So let's move into loot and pillage. You've refused the jailer's deal, and soon enough he finds his opportunity to make an attempt on your life. Taking advantage of the diversion created by a fight in your cell block, the jailer comes to silence you so you'll never share his secrets. You must fight the jailer before you begin your mission. Take the jailer card from the lore deck and the party must fight him without any of their starting items, which is the reason why I have not really showed you their starting possessions yet. If you destroy or escape the jailer, you can flee the dungeons as more fighting breaks out around you and your fellow prisoners turn on their captors. During the chaos, you may claim your starting items, but unfortunately we will start with 0 money basically. Before we get started though, we can now make a choice if I want, or if any of our character wants to draw a weakness card. Weakness cards brings you weakness, I think that's pretty obvious, but on the other hand they will provide you some more starting experience points. As the Corpse Burner already starts with 10 experience points, I think he is fine, whereas the Hinterlander only starts with 4 experience points, which isn't really great at all. And you need those experience points in either to upgrade your existing skills or in order to learn new skills here. And 4 is really weak. So I think let's draw a weakness card for the Hinterlander. So let's see what we get. That's half blind, an inability. Either you've lost an eye or you have generally poor vision. Okay, we would lose 1 perception, which is normally really bad, but it gives us 5 experience points, which is really huge. And the good thing is, the Hinterlander starts with 9 perception, so for him it's not really that bad. It's his strongest suit, so don't get me wrong on this, but still, that's pretty okay, I guess. So yeah, let's keep it. So he's now the half-blind Hinterlander. Not sure how he was able to survive out there in the wild, but this gives him 5 more experience points. Printed here down on the card. As part of setup, we would now have to place this Undercity dungeon overlay tile pretty much next to Brittleborg. So this is our prison cell where we are currently fighting the jailer. I will show this guy to you in a second. But what the heck, let's go for it though. This is our jailer. He's a law character. Apparently he doesn't look really lawful, to be honest. He would provide 1 skill point or 1 experience point and 1 money pretty much for the guy who will be able to loot him. He has the pain ability, and this game comes with a whole lot of different ability, but that's not an arrival ability if I'm not mistaken. He would now attack the character with the lowest moral. That's this icon here. He has an attack of 4, he has an armor of 1 and 5 hit points. So that's pretty much everything that we need to know. Let's have a look at the pain ability now. That's a pretty nasty one. When you receive 1 or more wounds from this monster, you must take a contest. If you fail, you become stunned until the end of your next turn. Becoming stunned in this scale is not that big of a deal, but it still hurts enough. First of all, we would need to assign the targets for those monsters. Right now we only have 1 monster, and as I already mentioned, this guy will attack the character with the lowest moral, though it's pretty much the down arrow here. He has a moral of 6, the Hinterlander. The Corpse Burner has a way higher moral of 8, so he will be directly attacked by the jailer. Next, we will check for any arrival abilities. We already checked those. There aren't any arrival abilities. And then adventurers take turns in perception orders. That's again the Hinterlander. He has still a perception of 8, whereas the Corpse Burner only has a perception of 7. Next, the character would choose his combat stance. So we could go to assault or to guard mode. As the Hinterlander is being attacked, I think let's be safe here and put him onto guard mode, because this allows him to roll this so-called power die as a defense roll, more or less. Problem is, we are now fighting unarmed, so this power die is halved anyway, so not sure what big of a difference this die may make. After choosing the combat stance, we would have to declare the action. We would choose a combat action or attack and target. In this case, we will simply attack, and the target would be the jailer apparently, and then we would resolve the action. In this case, we would roll all of our dice. That's usually 2 orange attack dice, 2 green defense die, and as I already mentioned, the power die, but the power die is halved now. And for your attack, you get to choose if you're going for agility or for strength, at least when fighting unarmed. In this case, 8 is the higher result, so I will totally go for agility. The same value is also true for your defense roll. But let's see what happens next. Let's roll those dice. Okay, the attack was successful because we rolled lower or less than our agility, which is okay. The problem is our defense totally missed here, so that's definitely higher than 12 in this case, and the power die is really a miserable 1 here. So we were not able to defend the attack of 4. So in theory, we are now taking 4 points of damage, because that's what the attack is saying. We have failed, so we can basically ignore the green dice. But because we were in guard stance, we can now take the half value of our power die in order to still somewhat protect us. Half rounded up in this case, which is a good thing. So we were at least able to fend off 1 wound from the jailer here. But this will still result in 1, 2, 3 wounds. In theory, I could now decide to spend a luck to roll 1 of my dice here. The problem is it's already a 6, and Oh, I don't know. I think I don't want to spend my luck because regaining luck is not really easy in this game. So yeah, let's suck it up. 1, 2, 3 wounds for the jailer. But the good thing is we were still successful in fighting back because we rolled below our agility value. And we will now inflict that many wounds that equal the highest die of our attack roll in this case. So that's a 3. Unfortunately, this guy has an armor of 1, so the jailer will simply get 2 wounds, but he's still doing okay, so he can still take 3 more wounds. Good thing is, we still have the corpse burner. He's not being attacked by the jailer in this case, so he can simply roll his attack dice. He will announce a strength attack in this case. He will still roll his power die, but now the power die can possibly boost his attack. I think doesn't really make a difference in this case because it's just half. So let's see what happens. That's definitely good enough. Great job. So that's an 8. 8 is equal to or less than our strength, and this also means we inflicted 6 wounds, -1 armor, but that's definitely good enough in order to kill or defeat that jailer here. Because the corpse burner landed the fatal blow, he's now allowed to gain this card as a trophy. So he will now get 1 piece of gold. Keep in mind we lost all of our money, but we will gain 1 coin back, which isn't a bad thing. And he will also gain 1 additional experience point. And now we could do a loot roll, which means we roll 1d6, and if that result is lower to or equal to the amount of experience points we received, so 1 in this case, we would be allowed to draw a loot card. Let's see what we get. No, that's only a 3, so we are not getting an additional loot card. This guy goes to the discard pile, and now we can continue with our scenario here. We would set the bounty level at 2 and would place the party in the Undercity dungeon. That's what I already did. Fresh out of the dungeon, without 2 coins to rub together, exactly, we have just 1, you know you'll need to come up with some funds as soon as possible. Luckily, you have 2 leads on potential fortunes ripe for the taking. A new cellmate recently boasted to you about a treasure he stole and sold to the Wither Rats gang, now housed at the old watchtower and barely guarded, unless it's already been shifted to the bandit camp. You've also heard rumors of the tomb of the dread Saint Pastiti, where tributes are left by pilgrims from across the Wüstreich, unprotected wealth just waiting to be taken. Unfortunately, some of the rumors disagree on specifics. You've heard that the tomb is beneath the ruin at Tower Islands, once part of the necropolis during the dread saint's time, or perhaps his body has been moved to the catacombs. That's why I already placed some of those key tokens here. 1 is in the catacombs, 1 is in Tower Island, 1 is at the watchtower here, and 1 is up there at the bandit camp, because this is what we just read. Under one of those key things there may be some loot which would pretty much win us this scenario. But let's have a look at our objectives. At least 1 adventurer must complete any one of the following, then rest at any town. So this is really something we have to do with 1 character, one of those occasions here. First of all, we could destroy a caravan in the highlands, we could plunder the treasure trove in the highlands, or we would plunder the unspoiled tombs in the lowlands or wetlands. The highlands are pretty much up here in this yellow and orange kind of region. 2 of those keys are located here. In one of those, we should be able to find the treasure trove. Or we could choose to go down here into the lowlands or here the wetlands, because we have the catacombs or the Tower Islands, where we'd be able to plunder the unspoiled tomb. The third one, or pretty much the first possible objective, is a totally random encounter somewhere here in the highlands. So I'm not really sure if I should really actively search for it. The thing is, we have 2 locations here, and on top of this we also have let's say random encounter, which could also give us the victory. So it's, from a possibility, maybe the better deal to go up into the highlands and try our luck there. But before we get started, let's have a look at our possessions, because this is what was listed in the campaign book, when we escape the prison, we would be able to gain our starting items here. So we would start, the corpse burner would start the game with a death mask. It's a hat item. We can only have ever one hat item here. A uniform for those who work within the sprawling necropolis, worn by the grave monks and corpse burners of the Holy Order. You are immune to fear and necro from the undead. Other monsters with fear or necro affect you normally. Okay, this can help us, maybe not. And we also start the game with a grave shovel, pretty much our weapon. We can attack with a strength or melee attack. In this case, if we're using the weapon, we have the advantage that our power die is not halved in this case. And if I would make a perception test while searching, you can make a strength test instead, which is okay because our strength is a little bit higher than perception. I already missed something, and this was the contest when I was taking the wound. Keep in mind, the jailer had this pain ability here, so I would need to roll that contest. Let's do that real quick, and then I would possibly have received the stun condition. But as the jailer was killed right away by the corpse burner, I think this doesn't really make sense, because you would only give him this condition until the end of the next round or next turn. In this case, during a fight, that's pretty much the end of the fight. But let's roll it. So it's a 7, so we are fine anyway. But of course, he also got his belongings back. He has the hunting bow, which also helps him to pretty much get the full power die when rolling for attack or defense in this case. And this hunting bow uses arrow. So if we find some arrows in between, we could gain an additional bonus for that. Unfortunately, we really have to load it, or we have to buy those arrows. It doesn't really change the thing, so I can still use this hunting bow. The arrows simply give us an additional bonus. And we will also start the game with this trail ration here. We discard at any time during the map action phase to remove the fatigue and weakened conditions. Can help us at some point in time, but right now we are still doing fine. Then we can start our very first normal round. I think from the Undercity dungeon, the only way to get somewhere, I think I have to go to Brittlebrook first. I think the rules are not really specific. In theory, I may be able to do maybe Rise Up North, but I think I want to go up here anyway. So I will now move this party here, and yes, I decided to keep those guys together as a party, so I could form 2 different parties, but I think for now let's stick to what we have here. First of all, the party has to decide for a map stance. That's either bold or cautious. I think in this case, as we only want to travel to an adjacent location, I think it's safe to go for the cautious map stance here. And the party leader of any given party is the player with the highest moral, which is the corpse burner at this point in time. If the other players do not agree to the decisions of that party leader, they can always opt to step out of the party, but then they're on their own, and then they can simply try to do something else, for example. But in this case, that's okay. They both agree, let's stick together. And next we could choose for a map action. As we have already chosen for the cautious stance, we could only go to foot travel to an adjacent space, or we can do a rest action. I think right now resting may not be the best idea, so we really want to get moving at least up to Brittlebrook, because there is at least a chance to do stuff. So let's simply move those guys adjacent here to Brittlebrook. Brittlebrook is a law space, as you can see by this gallows symbol here. It's a town space, which is cool, so we can in theory buy stuff. Unfortunately, we are out of money, so we can pretty much skip that. And yeah, that's the current town level, and a space can either have a town level or a danger level. So if we would gain danger in Brittlebrook, this town level would go down to 4, 3, 2 and 1, for example. And if we would then lose again, we would then move it into a danger space. But for a space such as Brittlebrook, that's very, very unlikely. The next thing to do, that was already our map phase. Next we would go into the danger phase. So we draw our first danger card here, and I think this seems to be a good one. Creeping things lurk in the dark woodland surrounding the Hunt Lodge. So the Hunt Lodge hand lodge will now get a danger level here, like this one here. Right now it's still a town level, so we would pretty much reduce the town level down to a 1. The next stage it would transform into a dangerous place if, let's say, the destiny would strike there again. But right now that's still okay, so it's still a somewhat safe place. But unfortunately we are not done yet. Next we would compare the law level on this card against the law level of this space, because right now we are in a low fall space, so keep that in mind. And in this case we kind of dodged the bullet because this value is not lower or equal to our current law level here, so nothing else would happen. So this was our very first, let's call it, encounter card. We are not drawing any encounters, we don't see any monsters whatsoever, so in this case we are perfectly fine. So we can skip the encounter phase right away and could move into the very next round, again starting with the map action phase. And I think I want to do at least one more round. And as this guy is being wounded, it may be a good idea to consider resting before we move on. And I think this is what we want to do. The corpse burner is not really fond of the idea, but he has a high moral level. So yeah, that's fine. Let's go for rest. But this also means we have to switch to the bold stance now, because some of the actions really require us to be in bold, because otherwise we could only rest. But there's definitely a lot more we want to do. And as for our map action, we are going to do a rest action. We would make camp or we'd stay in town. Right now we are in town, and then we would perform any number of rest action, which is also kind of cool, because while resting you can also spend experience points in order to learn or upgrade existing skills. So that's also pretty good for the corpse burner here. We are doing those rest actions starting with the player or with the character with the highest perception, which is currently the Hinterlander. So the first thing that you have to do is to recover if you have any wounds. So we would now do a moral test. His moral is a 6, pretty low, pretty low. That's a 7, so he did not pass the moral test. So we only get to heal half of our current moral level because we failed. So it's not all bad, but we will not be able. Oh yeah, we were, of course. No, that's good enough. Awesome. 1, 2, 3. Of course, we did block one of those wounds, so he's fully healed. So that's still pretty okay. And this guy, having the highest perception, could now also explore Brüttelburg a little bit. So I think let's go for it. Yeah, why not? Let's do a perception test for him. His perception is an 8, and if we are successful, we can place an explored marker there. And the explored marker pretty much helps us to draw additional loot cards when shopping there. Not sure if it's really something that we will ever do in Brüttelburg, but yeah, why not going there? That's an 8. That was just enough, but I will definitely not complain about the result. So this is now an explored space, pretty cool, may help us, but I think that's pretty much it in respect to his rest action. He could try to, oh yeah, he can do, to level up pretty much, because he gained additional experience points because of his weakness here, being half blind. Oh yeah, that's definitely something. Though, first of all, we could now spend 6 points in order to flip this card to the mastery level of that field craft. So let's have a look at this. The first one we already know, so when outside, that's a symbol for outside. We can use con instead of moral, which can be cool, but right now we are not outside. And on top of this, we would now get this ability as well. We get an auto success for stealth tests. Oh, that's not really bad, but maybe there are better cards waiting there. So let me check those skill cards first. And I think I may have found one here, the Sixth Sense. You are immune to ambush, which is already pretty cool, but adventurers in your party add +1 to their perception while they test against ambush. That's not bad. It has a requirement of magic of 8 or perception of 8. We have a perception of 8, so we are doing okay. So yeah, let's go for the Sixth Sense here. This costs us 8 experience points, so we're going down to 1, and that's pretty much the end of his rest action. Now we come to the Corpse Burner, and I think the Corpse Burner will go for the Ferocious Charge ability. This costs him 8 experience points, so he's going down to 3. He has a requirement of 8, of strength of 8. He has strength of 8, and this has a very cool quick action here. If it is your first turn after entering a fight, you may roll an additional power die when using a strength attack this turn. But of course, this requires him to be in assault stance, but overall, that's not that big of a deal. This was pretty much our map action phase, and now before we move into the danger phase, we have to resolve the manhunt here. The authorities sent troops to patrol the streets of Brüttelburg and the towns of the lowlands in search of escaped convicts. At the start of each danger phase, increase the bounty level if any adventurer rested in bold stance at a town in the lowlands during that turn. That's what we did. So we have to increase the bounty level accordingly. And this value counts for the whole map pretty much. Whenever you move into a lore space, this is the bounty level we are talking about. So it's now up to 3. If the bounty level is increased to 3 or more, which it is right now, place a lore counter on the Fishmonger camp and the North Bridge. So the North Bridge has now become a lawful place as well. And the same is true for the Fishmonger camp here as well. Right now, not the, let's say, worst thing in the world. But yeah, we would be drawing, let's say, cards from this deck instead, from the lore deck instead of the wetlands deck, for example. But then we still have to draw our danger card here, so let's see what we got. Troops of gibbering weirds join the bandits whose outpost riddle the wind-blasted peaks of the Slavers Pass, which is all the way up there right now. That's still okay, because only when a place gets the danger level of 6, it really gets a little bit annoying or problematic. But right now, that's still okay. And last thing to do, we would compare the lore level of the bounty level here right now. That's still okay. So this value is not lower to or equal than the bounty level. So nothing else would happen. So we can discard this danger card as well. And this brings me to the end of this first episode here. So the next thing to do would be to move here to the watchtower, maybe to really try to, let's say, explore this clue up there, because this could already win us the game, or maybe not. Maybe we have to continue moving up north. We will see. So far, not a lot of things did happen, but this will change for sure, rest assured. So once we really start moving to those locations on these roads or streets here, things will definitely change. And I really hope that you are enjoying my little playthrough of Dungeon Degenerates here. I really hope I haven't messed things up. So far, not much was going on, but this will change anytime soon, believe it or not. Hope to see you soon in one of my other videos. And yeah, until then, bye-bye.